No,
full of golf.
that's the spring and the fall.
That's not the winter.
And it's not the summer.
Are you gonna be able to sit down tonight? I
Maybe
hope, because it's a big distraction, you standing up there.
Doesn't bother me.
doesn't just.
Plus, you're out of order. And I don't think you can regulate how many minutes everybody speaks at a meeting.
I think those were.
I don't think you can do that.
Yes, you can, actually.
So show me where it says you can do that.
We're gonna do lap.
I'm getting tired of a lot of stuff that's going on around here.
So totally unrelated, but I saw this really funny, I guess it was a meme, but I guess it was a Giphy meme. But it said, Canadian swimming, and it was someone doing the crawl through snow.
Yep, I've seen those. I don't know how they do that, 'cause that's
How long does it need to be?
awful.
We don't know.
I sent it to his former coworker. She's from Toronto.
I mean,
And also, our bylaws
before, but
say that we're supposed to
not in snow. That sounds awful.
pick a new president in December and a vice president.
That sounds-
And
Not
you're
the
in
bylaws.
violation
That's
of
the
the bylaws, and don't
The
talk over me.
bylaws.
I'm so tired of you, Haley.
You're talking over me.
I'm just tired of you
Of course.
and your little reign of terror here,
Yeah, right.
trying to hold on to power. For what? I mean, it's a pool and a rental home.
Yeah, what's your?
There's got to be something else going on here that I don't know about.
Something tells me that we're not gonna have a big turnout today.
Yeah. I think
Yeah, it's
so.
Valentine's Day.
I feel like Alexander's,
I like your rose though.
It's
I
actually
know,
Sunny's. It's Sunny's rose.
I smelled it, it was like really nice.
I have candy at home. You want me to go get it?
No,
I gave
Don't.
little candy to all my students today.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go tomorrow to the store, because that's the real holiday, because
Oh,
everything's
that's
50% off tomorrow.
Have fun.
So Tom, who runs a scuba class here, brought succulent salad.
That's so nice.
And then she said, "Put it up."
It's very pretty. It reminded me of Beauty and the Beast, like the flower petals.
It's really nice.
It's really nice.
Do you have the time?
6:30.
Okay, call the meeting to order. Guess we'll start with the manager's report. Kevin?
All right, so we'll start with the manager's report. All right, so we'll start out with the January report, answers to the previous meeting's questions, winter projects update, and spring project plan. The question I'm sure on everyone's mind is, why has the agenda format changed a little bit? This was in part because the new business, old business didn't allow us to prioritize important items at the top, because sometimes new business items were more important than the old business items. So we redid that. In addition, there's been a lot of questions that have been asked that we haven't been able to answer, and we wanted that to come before public comment so people could have their questions answered, and then they could comment on it, ask additional questions, things like that. In addition, Government Code 54954.2, which is about agenda descriptions. Each agenda should be, item should be enough to know what is going to be discussed and what could potentially be voted on, or that there would be a vote on it. So we're making efforts to comply with this government code to make sure that, for transparency reasons, everyone knows what's going to be on the agenda.
So, but we didn't do that before though.
Correct, yes.
So why is it that we started doing it now?
Well, we found out
Because
about it.
it's a government code.
And anything that we find out that we're not in compliance with, we try to.
So you've been operating 5 years not knowing what you're doing, right?
Everyone has been
Did you?
doing that.
That's
moving
good.
forward,
Did
so,
you?
Was that?
I'm not the manager.
Sorry?
You're the board member.
No, we happened to come across it and we realized. And in fact, there was a lot of agenda items that were on the agenda before that weren't terribly descriptive, and that's something we've been needing to get to, so.
So the lawyer pointed out in that thing that basically every agenda item should be about 20 words long or no more, so that it explains whether you want to show up or not, you know? And we only have one agenda item that I can't figure out what it's about, but the rest of them are descriptive enough.
Yeah.
So it'd be like pool safety, and then instead of saying pool safety, it'd be saying like pool safety, you know, not running in the pool or whatever, something like
Well,
that.
There was
it would be like
A
discussion.
case, there was a court case. What happened was it was a school district and they had put on the agenda school changes. And in the end, what they were doing, they were closing a school and it hadn't been described fully like
Oh,
that,
I
so
see.
people understand.
People didn't show up. to say
Because they didn't know it was about the school.
Yes, there was more to it than
Okay.
just a change in the school.
Alright.
So it seems reasonable to adjust our agenda to,
Be more descriptive
and follow the code.
and follow the code, yeah.
That is correct. In addition, this is an abbreviated check register, so our accounting and records manager, Sunny, took a much needed vacation. So this month's agenda, check register is shorter than normal, but it'll be longer in the next meeting. We also hired a new lap swim guard to replace the one who resigned in January. And we had no unplanned downtime since the last meeting. One thing that didn't end up in here, but slipped in, there's a slight error in the agenda. This is actually a little bit out of date. Item 5C is, this is an old one. In fact, I hadn't realized that there was, the board had not approved the staff recommendations, so I pulled the proposals out and put that back in. So in the packet, it won't be in there. Those bids won't be in there for 5C.
These three bids won't be there?
They will not be there, yeah.
Right.
Because the board had not approved or made any comment on the staff recommendations, so the proposals are not approved.
Okay.
Steve wanted me to put together some answers to the outreach efforts. There's been a lot of questions about what outreach efforts have been done, and it's been asked repeatedly, so I put it together so that, you know, the public can have those questions answered. In the distant past, we used to have a season opening event. Former board member Patricia Bustamante would knock on doors. I'm told that she also put taped a notice onto people's mailbox. I don't know, I haven't verified that myself, but I do know she knocked on doors. Former board member Dave Mendez would barbecue for us until he retired, and then after that, the whole thing kind of stopped happening. In the intermediate past, we had banners on Bollinger. We went to spring city events such as the Big Bunny Fun Run, the Earth Day, and as well as the Cherry Blossom Festival. We also sent out targeted mailers to families in this area, as well as in the San Jose area, to people with children.
And that was the one from Marcos, right?
Correct.
How did you know they have children?
Mark Hotz does the research. So it's a targeted mailer. We tell them what we're looking for, and then they send the mailers out to those people. It's not always accurate, you know, especially because people move a lot. It's, you know, but it's, it gets to our target audience, which is generally people with families. In addition to that, we started a professional website, Facebook presence, and Yelp. And in the recent past, we've expanded our advertising to Cupertino Union School District emailers. And we attended 2 camp fairs, the Bay Area Parent Camp Fair and the Cupertino Chamber of Commerce Camp Fair, which happened, was it last weekend or the weekend before? Either one. And finally, we started a marketing and events manager in 2018. It's still a new role, so it's getting fleshed out a little bit more. Not quite there yet, but it's,
So who was that?
Sorry?
Who was the marketing and events manager?
that was Chris. So we're not sure if he's coming back, but we're kind of.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
I see, it was a seasonal thing. 'Cause
It's a season,
everything's-
it's
okay,
all the
gotcha.
managers are seasonal, generally speaking, except for 2, 3.
So I got a question, so like the Cupertino Union School District emailers
Yes.
and the camp fairs?
Yes.
So was that for getting people to come for the swim lessons, or was it for the swim lessons and people having summer jobs, or was it just one or the other?
Oh, Cupertino Union School District is actually an elementary school, so it's mostly for people to come for the program.
Oh, okay, I thought it was,
Um,
I thought it was the high school, okay.
For getting staff, yes, we do go to all the local high schools, colleges, things like that.
Okay.
So, yeah. So in summary, there were quite a few efforts to reach out. Clearly, it wasn't enough, and I know the board takes this very seriously. So coming up, there will be a few things. First is a mailer that residents should have received already. So that one came to everyone. We are going to have a grand opening event. This was spearheaded by former board member Julie Jervis in July of last year. And this will happen in May, so you should see another mailer at some point for that. If we get enough interest, we'll start our e-newsletter. And we'll eventually do a program survey to see what people want. And then review the program mix to make sure that that's within the budget. All right. There were some questions about how much of the business comes from Rancho residents. Right here, this column here is the number of full price items sold. So you can see there's 6,573 swim lessons sold in 2018. The special column here is, unfortunately, it's not just residents, but it's residents, seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities get that discount. And then we put the percentages there on the right-hand side. People can take a look at that. There was another question about hall rental pricing comparison. Capacity is either default or banquet style. Fees are for non-residents and off-peak rates.
So what's banquet style versus default? Is
Right.
that this thing over here?
No, banquet style is when you have tables and chairs.
Oh, okay.
So not all places accommodate freestanding, like some places have fixed tables.
Right,
So to make the comparison apples to apples, we use all banquet style
Okay,
or
gotcha.
whatever they have. The Campbell Community Center right here, which looks like it's the same rate, is actually not because they don't allow banquets or parties, so it's not really an apples to apples comparison. And the results are that the most cost effective option for non-resident parties in this area is right here for 51 to 80 people. And for residents, this is the best place for parties of 16 to 80. So it's quite a good deal for residents. There was a question about whether the board secretary should be taking the notes. In the policy, it says that the secretary must ensure that the minutes of each board meeting are prepared and maintained and shall keep the minutes. This is confusing.
Well, it also says that the board secretary is a member of the board,
Right.
and you are not.
No, Steve is the secretary.
Right.
So I am the clerk.
I think the 10
And the
minutes
board
is up.
clerk
I think it's,
takes, is going to be taking non-related notes and
Pardon me?
preparing the minutes.
Are we gonna
Attention.
stick
Are
to
you
it?
gonna- Sandy's suggesting we move on.
Okay.
10 minutes is up.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I mean, as long as we're doing timing here.
Yeah, I'd like to go through this.
Okay. We'll share that.
That's fine. If you want to continue.
So another question was about action minutes. Some
So he
people
gets
were
extra minutes?
concerned that the minutes
Well, maybe
didn't.
listen, you
No,
could
I
learn
just want to
something.
know why he gets extra minutes.
Can we have
People
some
here
papers?
had asked,
Everybody's
that-
best
Okay,
interest
so
here
this
full
is why
report.
this
He's
is
the one that
stupid,
has the
right?
information.
I'm not answering that.
So are we gonna, I have a question. Are we gonna stick to these time limits, which I think are kind of ridiculous? Because your 10 minutes is up and you get more minutes. So are we gonna just do away with all of this 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, blah, blah, blah?
I think they're guidelines.
Yeah, I think
It's
they're
gonna be
recommended.
it's just
We're
a
either gonna
guideline.
stick to the minutes or we're gonna do away with the minutes.
That's the board
Can we
choice.
let him proceed?
No,
Thank you.
we can't, not until we clear this up.
They were told
I want it
as
cleared up.
guidelines. They're guidelines.
His 10 minutes are up.
Yeah, but next time
Are we
we'll
gonna-
take time on it.
Are we gonna get rid of it?
Yeah, that was a bad idea.
He's got 40 minutes for communications, 20 minutes. I think this whole thing is ridiculous. I
Now
don't think
waste
there
your
should
time
be a
just talking
time
about
limit
what could have finished.
on a public meeting.
So,
But if
um,
your minutes aren't up, then we should do away with everything on this agenda as far as the minutes go.
So I'm going to follow what the
Do
board
you
chair is
agree?
asking.
I am saying that we're gonna let Kevin speak.
No, we're not, unless we let everybody else go over their, whatever the minutes are.
Why
The
don't
20
we wait and
minutes
see
for the
whether they
public.
do
no-
it, because they might not go over their minutes.
Well, they might.
They might.
Can we let Kevin think?
No,
Can't we just
well,
finish
not until
one
we
item?
do what's on the agenda.
Because it's a
We
suggestion,
cannot
it's
on
not a
the
rule.
agenda.
Hold it.
It's a suggestion, it's
Hold
not a
it.
rule.
No, it's not a suggestion. It doesn't say it's a suggestion. And it should say it's a suggestion if we're gonna go make sure everything is really clear on the agenda. Now, let's do things by the rules, or no, we're not gonna be doing them by the rules.
I'm the board chair, I say Kevin
I
can
don't
go.
care who you are. You're here illegitimately, as far as I'm concerned, because your term was up in December. And you're going against 5010.5 on our bylaws. And you and Steve seem to have all these adjustments. And I'm tired of it, frankly.
For transparency.
Now, we're either gonna have the minutes limitation or we're not. Let's vote on it right now.
Okay, this one,
We don't get to-
Are we gonna have the limitation or not? Do I hear anybody?
I wanna see the rest of
Okay,
this.
then the rest of it is
So let's,
that we're not having minute limitations.
Okay.
We can follow the
Okay.
guidelines.
No
Yes, we
limit-
can.
No limit
There's no
limitations.
vote here. So
Okay,
Kevin,
no
please
limitations.
continue.
Okay, we're not
Kevin,
having,
please
I
continue.
wanna know if we're
Kevin,
having
please
limitations.
continue.
Just make a motion that they're guidelines and vote on it, and then you go on.
Are we having limitations or not? Yes or no?
I don't think they can make a.
Sophie said no.
It's not on the agenda.
I say no. What do you say?
It's true.
There was no motion
It's not on the
made.
agenda.
Okay, I'll make,
You
it doesn't,
can't make
It's
it
not
up
on the
here.
agenda.
this is on the
No, no,
agenda.
no, it's not an
10
item on the agenda.
minutes. 10
Kevin,
minutes.
thank you. Can you please continue?
10 minutes.
So, there was a concern.
Okay, then everybody else is gonna have carte blanche on the minutes too.
So there was a concern about action minutes. Basically, one of the residents was concerned that the minutes didn't summarize the concerns adequately. I did want to address this a little bit. The action minutes are basically just showing motions and then the board decisions. This type of minute taking is more concise and it's the least subjective of the minute taking types. Considering our meetings have gone on for 5.5 hours, it might be the only one that is on our bulletin board. It also follows board policy 4047 and also past board directive, which you can see here. It's in your packets, and you can click on that link if you look at this online to get more information about the 3 different formats that they present here. We also had some questions about the financial controls in the last meeting. So I wanted to give an example of how all outgoing payments are made. Any kind of outgoing check, which is the only kind of thing that we pay everything off with, has general manager review. So that means that I have to personally review the bill and sign off on it. Our accounting and records manager verifies the signature, processes the bill, and creates a check. Neither of us can sign the checks. Then one of the board members who's assigned at each meeting, so it could be a different one, they check all of that and they check for relevance, and once they're satisfied, they sign the check. The entire check register, meaning all checks that go out, is reviewed by the board monthly and approved.
so
Yes.
as a new board member, I've never seen a package like this before.
Right, so I figured you would have questions, and I brought them here just for expediency.
Okay.
In every group I've been in, every month when the report is approved, the checks that were written that month are also included in the report. That would be helpful.
Right.
No, but I mean for the
This
public.
report,
For-
public report,
Yeah, it's right here. It's in your report. It is there.
So, let's-
Looking
a
at,
page.
it should be right after the,
Is this, well, that's
right after the
last
audit, I believe. Yeah,
It's in there.
this one. If you can
But
see.
that's just the
It should be-
ledger. That doesn't have like the actual copies of like the checks. So
No.
Those are, but you've
Right.
got the whole year on here, right?
The-
No, no, no.
just
No,
the-
no, no.
It's just-
You're looking at,
It should be part of,
For
part
now.
of,
Oh,
here
it's
it
just-
is.
It's just passed
This.
through.
It's past
not
the,
after the audit report, put it with this.
Oh, well, it's not part of the audit report.
But it's after,
Yeah.
it should be right next to this.
I'm sorry, next.
was in the
The audit
consent.
report between that and the financial report.
Oh, yeah, I can put them together next time. It's not a problem.
Yeah, we don't normally have the.
Yeah.
We had
audit
a
I
in here.
know,
consent
it should
calendar.
have been between.
Yeah.
Normally they are next to each other. We changed the format and, there's some obviously things that need to get worked out still. Anyway, After all this is done, after the board takes a look at all the check register, then the accounting and records manager reconciles the bank statement to the general ledger, making sure that all transactions have been recorded properly. And of course, our independent auditor reviews our controls and conducts random samples annually. And of course, if you want, you can take a look at our full accounting manual by clicking on that link if you go online. This is our winter projects update, and you can kind of see where we are with a lot of our projects. We are behind schedule at this point. Most of the staff time has been diverted to board functions, board support, committee support, additional reporting, all kinds of stuff. So we are a little bit behind, and this is our spring project plan. So right now, we're in the middle of hiring and planning our spring season. So, do you have any questions?
Is this last page?
Okay, so does that conclude the manager's report?
Yes.
Okay, so now we'll take time for the public comment period. Does anyone want to make a comment?
I just have a question. Thanks for providing all this information up here about who uses the facilities. So Melanie can't be here, but she was worried about, she was wanting the lap swim. And we asked last time about that, and we were talking about how there's so many lanes being used for the swim team and how many kids. So if only 20% of the swim team is residents, and we can't have lap swim for residents in the evening when it would be convenient for them, and you can find lifeguards because of the swim team, I think we need to revisit the balance there. Are we serving the residents or are we serving non-residents? And then I had a question, how much does the swim team cost, residents versus non-residents? What's your income from this? I mean, it's probably somewhere here in the thing, but I mean, like, are you making so much on the swim team that would be counterintuitive to take some of those laps, those lanes and give it to lap swim? It just makes sense if the community wants something and non-residents are benefiting from that time more than residents. I think it should be revisited just for balance. But thanks for doing this. That's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Excuse me?
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
You should be the president, so.
Do we have any more comments? Okay. Okay, Kevin, you're presenting, we're having committee reports.
Oh, yeah, that was the committee one report.
All right, so, I mean, in terms of the committee for the vacancy, I saw that, thank you, Kevin, for putting that stuff online. There's information online regarding the board vacancy. If you actually go to the board of directors portion of the website, there's information there. There's also something in the Cupertino Courier. This will be in the next three issues. The Cupertino Courier comes out every Friday. So this is last Friday's, February 8th, so it'll come out on the 15th as well. I'll just let you know what the notice of vacancy says. It says, due to the resignation of board member Julie Jervis, the board of directors for the Rancho Rinconada Recreation District is accepting applications from interested candidates for an appointment to fill the vacant seat on the board. The duration of this appointment is until the next board election to be held in November 2020. The board intends to seat the new member no later than the regular March 11th, 2019 regular board meeting. Applicants must be a registered voter in California and a resident of the Rancho Rinconada district. Applicants will be required to appear during the February 28th, 2019 board meeting for brief interviews, followed by a possible elimination round and then a vote by the board to appoint. Information regarding the application process can be obtained online at ranchorecreation.com and must be submitted to Sophia Badillo at sophiabadillo4cupertino@gmail.com and received by midnight, February 24th, 2019.
Thank you for your interest in the Rancho Recanata Recreation District Board. So there's going to be a special meeting on the 28th. That information is in this vacancy and it's also online. It is not on that mailer that went out. So I just wanted to let people know that.
Okay, thank you.
A question.
Yeah.
I couldn't, when I saw it in last Friday's paper, I couldn't understand, because I've never seen a case where you send an application for a public office to a private email address instead of a public email address. So I wondered why they aren't being told to send them to contact@ranchorec.com, because under the California Public Records Act, I'm concerned that maybe something will get lost because you have crappy service or an interruption in service, or, worst case is we won't see some applications because they'll get lost for other reasons. And that, if that sounds negative, I'm sorry. It's just that I've never seen any public opening for any place where you replied to a private email address instead of a public funded and owned email address. So I thought that was really strange.
So we actually talked about it with the lawyer, and the lawyer okayed for me to get this. So there was a discussion between me and Kevin too of, if we wanted both the contact and the my email on it.
That would be good. I mean,
Right,
that would be transparent. Tell people to send it to both. I mean,
Right,
if
so
you're
that's
not-
actually what I said, and then you said that it could go to like one, so I said, okay, well, we'll just have
It's
it.
too confusing to have it to two.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what the committee came up with,
Because for
but it was
transparency
okay.
reasons, I'm concerned, because we've never used a private email address for public business in any place I've ever been aware of.
So, well, we talked to the lawyer and she
Wow.
okayed it, so,
It's-
I'm just,
Okay.
Where is she tonight?
I don't know.
Oh, no, she hasn't come for the last two times.
Well, I know this last-
She'll be here for the 28th just to make sure that everything goes.
Is there a reason, like it's sometimes, not always?
Well, for the 28th, it's we just want to make sure that we do everything right.
We follow the laws. We
So
need,
why was it like 2 meetings ago and not today?
There's no closed session. We don't need that. So.
the other place that I think we need to make a change is, I was reading the website today, and it also tells you instructions to file for the opening, to send it to the private email address. And I'd like to see our website change to say, send it to both. I mean, I don't have a problem with you getting them at the same time. My only problem is that for transparency, I think that we need it going to a public address that I know doesn't crash.
Like a
Because-
PO box,
I agree with that.
like a
Have
PO
a-
box? Is that what you're talking about?
Emails are not
our-
PO boxes.
Yeah,
No, I'm talking
but
about
Kevin
email
will get it,
addresses.
Kevin will get it if it comes here.
Yeah, that's
So
okay.
how do we know
Open
that he
for-
can't go through them and,
But that's a publicly funded,
well, I don't
address.
care. How do we know?
How do
We
know
don't
what?
know.
We don't know what.
We don't know if they come to Sophie, if she's
Well, if
gonna
it's going
do
to two
something
addresses,
untoward, any
Yeah.
more than if they go to Kevin.
I mean, if
And
coming
he can
to
go
a
through
public
them.
if they go to
address.
both, we'll have a check
They're
to tell
coming
us
to a
that
public
that
address.
we got them all. And so 2 addresses is better than none, since there appears to be some distrust of using
Yeah, well, there is some
our
distrust
email
with
address
me,
here at the
definitely.
district.
Well, yeah, I mean, I when we discussed it with Renee, who's not here, but she was on the committee, and and we discussed it with you and the lawyer, and I mean, I'm fine if you want to get it, but I don't think it should, or to also go to the other person at the committee too.
Right. So
I think most
shouldn't be
people, if they
private.
read, send to these 2 emails, they'll send to those 2 emails. I mean, if they can't figure that out, they shouldn't be on a video, so.
But they shouldn't be
Just let
directed
that
just to
read it
send
out.
it to one, because that's not transparent.
So put it on 2.
Yeah, so I'd change the
Yes,
ad to
Kevin.
put both addresses.
So one other thing that is happening starting tomorrow
Yeah, it's true.
is that we are going to have some of our services upgraded. So we will be able to provide a board email address to everyone, including aliases. So for example, if we were to assign people to a standing committee, then whenever someone sends an email to that standing committee, it actually goes to both email addresses. So in the future, this won't be a problem as long as everyone uses their board emails.
Because it would automatically go to everybody.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, but that's probably coming in a couple weeks. So
Okay.
keep an eye out for it.
Too late for this, but.
Yeah, too late for this. Yeah.
That's a good point. A good change.
And we're probably changing to .org.
So I guess it would be ranchorecreation.org as well,
Yes, yeah.
and then people would just be redirected if they go to ranchorecreation.com to the .org.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
they'd all point the same direction, and
Okay.
you can choose whatever name you like, to have as your email address, if that's best for you.
So we concluded vacancy notices committee? Have you concluded your report?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
And we have a community mailer committee. That's our report?
Yeah, so the community mailer went out. There was some stuff going on there. I contacted with a draft the vendor. Steve and I are on that committee, and
Never mind. Sorry. I'll take my turn. You first.
Steve and I were on the committee, and I didn't hear anything from Steve. There was like, we need to do this, get it mailed out, blah, 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 blah. So I sent a draft, and I actually got, I guess, comments, was it like Monday or Tuesday or something? So I contacted Mark Hotz again and said, oh, well, can we put these on as a draft and get a, please help me out there, what is it called when they do
For the graphic design.
the graphic design for it? There were some mistakes, I guess. Kevin had called in with payments, but no draft was
Approved by the.
approved by the board. So these went out by mistake. This was just a draft. So
there's nothing on there that's not true, right?
Oh, there are many things on there that are not true because it was draft. First of all, I don't know who the first person listed there is, but it's not me because it's not my name. That's misspelled, and maybe I feel a little bad about that.
Well, you should have
Yeah,
been
there's-
more active.
And
mean,
I
there
was
was-
very active. I sent her 3 emails saying, this reads mainly like a campaign mail. And what the most important thing we needed to send out wasn't a mailer to say, hey, we're here. It's to say, hey, the more important is to make sure that everyone in the district gets an announcement, because most of them throw away their courier, in the mail, telling them that you can be on our board. And I wanted to reach all 1,200 possible households with that. And so
Right.
I gave her that input, and the only thing she took out of that input was, oh, well, yeah, I guess we could take the email addresses off for the people. And I go, okay. So she basically ran the committee, ran the vendor, and never cleared it with me or with Kevin.
actually,
And
that's,
I've never been in a place where we've
That's
hired a
not
vendor
true.
that wasn't hired by our general manager. So I
That's-
said, why are you talking to a vendor on a draft? You usually
Yeah.
don't talk to a vendor until you get to the final.
I want to say this. So you actually sent me an apology, and there was I think you were confused because there were 2 committees. One was for the vacancy notice, and the other one was for the community mailer, in which, if you look at the last agenda, and you actually see that Kevin and I, there was an actual outline there.
True, but if you had ever been willing to meet with us, then we could have gone over that and said, this is a suggestion by the board, but it was delegated to the committee of 2 to take the action, but it was only a committee of 1 that took all the action, because I was excluded from any action at all.
That's actually
And
not
input.
true. That's not true.
Because I never would have approved a mailer that has my name misspelled, for sure.
So Steve,
And one that's filled with mainly campaign information instead of
There's
information.
all sorts of misspellings on the website, so maybe we should fix
Oh, I
this.
know, there are.
so this was a draft. I never approved for this to go out. It's a draft. And
Well, why did
I
you send a
believe-
draft to a vendor at all?
I sent a draft to the vendor, so because Kevin said that the vendor actually does the mock-up. And being on a committee, I wanted to see the mock-up that the vendor was doing. If we are on a committee, I find it really strange that we have to go through the general manager for anything. I mean, the point of a committee is to actually do something, talk to the people, get something out.
No, the point of the committee is to
Kevin
work
is the
together
gatekeeper.
to serve the board.
Nothing
and Kevin-
goes out or comes in
and-
without Kevin's approval.
Well, it's not his approval, it's just that.
Oh, yeah,
it's-
it's because you
it's very
gave him,
unusual.
Are not
you gave
recognized.
him
You're not
Permission.
recognized. You're not recognized.
Oh, yeah?
Steve's
So-
talking.
Well, I'm
Anyway.
recognizing myself.
So anyway, I just want
Where's
to
your
say
pen?
that,
Oh,
as a,
wow. Oh, wow.
as
Calm
a,
down.
Kevin, can we hear from you? Thank
Calm
you.
down, Hillary.
okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Calm down. Stop grabbing my pen.
Right, so normally staff takes care of the vendors to avoid the conflict where you have two people talking to the vendor at the same time. I understand that it's, this is, a new process. This avoids
I gotta go.
having mixed signals. And the other thing too is that the instructions were to give a final draft to the vendor, because when they do a mock-up, they don't want to be changing it every time the committee makes a change. It's not meant to prevent committee members from doing things. It's meant to avoid communication issues.
So, but I think, okay.
Which
so in
clearly
terms of-
happened.
Right,
It
so
happened,
I'll
so-
admit, community, communication issues happened. But one of the issues that I have though is, this specific thing is to do a mailer, is to have a graphic designer design something. That is not what your position was. It was the position of the vendor. So for me to actually look at something and have a draft, I actually have to see what the graphic designer does.
So
So,
it would be best to, at least have a process in place for doing that. Who sends it? Who authorizes things? Otherwise, you get this. You get a accidental release of a mailer that didn't get approval from the full
Well,
committee.
maybe if it had been sent out in the last 10 years, then we wouldn't have this problem.
Well,
Or.
So make a process
helpful.
now.
so
Yeah, so-
the thing is normally
I appreciated it.
the GM, it acts as the gatekeeper, not to stop anyone from doing anything,
Right.
but just to make sure that everything goes, final goes through. And that wouldn't stop you from having, the graphic
Right.
design at some point.
yeah,
But we clearly confused them and they were upset about it in email.
yeah, so,
So going forward,
I-
are we gonna have to do another mailing?
Many of them.
yeah.
Well, I
have
mean-
to-
Well, the idea is we
we'll have a-
continue to do mailers.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yes.
got it, but I mean, are we gonna be repeating the same?
So I just want to say this was
Hopefully
an,
new information.
Okay.
this was an email from Kevin that was sent on February 1st. He said, I understand that I'm not part of the committee and do not want to wish to overstep. However, for the sake of expediency, I would like to suggest an abbreviated version of Sophia's mailer prototype. More information will reduce the chances that residents will read parts that are really important. So that was the stuff that was on the last agenda, which we did a little outline of, which showed that the mailer was actually not about just the vacancy, but it was for community outreach. So another thing I wanted to say too was there was an email from the vendor. I'm sorry, this was to Kevin, to the vendor, because the draft went out. And he said, hi, Ray, per a phone conversation with Alex yesterday, he was a graphic designer. My payment was so the mailer could go out today if and only if the committee agreed on the wording, my understanding that this was communicated to you. So part of the problem was payment was given to these people, but a draft was not approved yet. So I think that was also probably a problem too.
Which
Because
is
they
what
probably-
happens when you have two people talking to them at the same time. So what happened was that the vendor had reached out and said, look, we can get your mailer out on time if you line up the payment, and so long as the committee, gets something, the text to us on time, then we'll send it out. Well, what happened was I made payment, trying to be as helpful as I could be. I sent an email to the committee saying we need to get this in. It wasn't approved, nothing happened, and the next day, the back office, the printer, said, well, we have payment, we have a draft, we're sending it out. So,
So I think that's also a problem too, because I guess we have to make sure that before payment is even put in, that, an actual draft is finalized, so there isn't something like this that goes on.
well, normally what happens is that a final draft is delivered and it goes through me. That's how none of
Single
this stuff
point of
ever
contact.
happens. A single point of contact. If you want it to be that, that's okay. But you didn't communicate that to me. You reached out to Marcotte, you didn't ask them. You didn't ask me for their contact information. You went out and reached out to them.
Well,
directly.
you told me they were the vendor, so I didn't know I had to go through you.
I mean, you could
So-
ask me for the contact, at which point I could leave all of that to you.
Um, Yeah, I know. I was
I mean,
on,
it's easier.
I was on the
With
committee.
each other, it went out,
it
was
went out.
fine.
I was on the committee. We wanted something to go out. There was something that happened in the process.
Right.
We can
So now you
go,
have reason to make a better process.
right, exactly.
So, I mean, this mailer though, I mean, it doesn't have our name correctly on there. Steve's
Yeah,
name
sorry.
is wrong.
What
It was,
name
it was
is
a, it was a draft.
His email's wrong. I mean,
What email?
this
is
should
that?
not have gone out.
Okay.
It shouldn't have gone out, but
Then let's
Okay,
not put
so
it
now we
out.
have a
It's
report.
Okay.
Okay,
so,
now, do you want to make additional comments, or are we completed with the community mailer? Or are we going to set up for a new committee for our next mailer?
It should go to a standing committee instead of the.
Okay, well, we're going to do that next month.
so what's the standing committee?
So the standing, if we go to staff comments.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on staff comments.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Mailers.
based on this, I have a couple recommendations so that we can work better going forward. That's really what it's all about. It's not what happened, but going forward.
What's this?
The first part is using standing committees instead of ad hoc committees. So ad hoc, there's no transparency requirements. You don't have to meet in public. You don't have to notice anything. There's no minutes, nothing. Whereas a standing committee, you come together at a specific time, you meet. It's just kind of like a board meeting, but you can get things done there. That way, we can talk about it openly and there's, it's all there.
Oh, okay, cool. And then we can actually put them on YouTube too.
You got it. The second thing is I would recommend clarifying the committee work, specifying the goals, deadlines, and deliverables in advance so we're all on the same page. The third one is to task the ordinance committee with creating policies for review by the full board. The policies should be to include staff and communications. The second thing is to include staff feedback to the committees. And the third is that the GM should be the single point of contact with vendors. That is okay if the committee wants to take that over, but it needs to be communicated as well.
Okay, these are the first committees that I've ever.
No.
So,
It's not meant to blame
So-
you. It's just rolling forward.
Yeah.
These would help. I
yeah,
think.
having good processes, that's good.
Yes.
I totally agree.
Okay, so I'm saying we've concluded our committee reports, moving on to the compensation report.
Okay.
Question.
Sure.
Standing, what is standing committee? Who are in the standing committee? Is it all board members?
No, so what has happened is we have 5 standing committees and they haven't really been used very often. So what, if you look at the agenda under 11B, in the March meeting, after we have our 5th board member appointed, then we could assign each board member to 2 standing committees. That way it's all set out, who's there,
Rest of the.
you got it.
No,
Okay. Okay, so, let's see here. This is the salary schedule review. We're gonna go through an introduction, talk about the workloads, job functions. We'll have a brief intermission for questions. Then we'll go into the data and how we got there. Again, this is just a report, no action here. So to introduce, the board asked staff to put together these tables in a meeting in October 2018 as a matter of transparency and good planning. If you take a look at pretty much any public agency, they have salary schedules published on their website. We've modified it based on feedback from community members and the board. And we're open to suggestions, feedback, and further board direction. Of course, any discussion of salaries is useless without context of what the jobs actually entail. So let's go into it. The first part, we're going to talk about the workload. There were some current concerns about how many hours this job entails. It's based on an average 40-plus hour work week. There are times during the year when it may be maybe 7 hours a day. There's times when it's over 12 hours a day. Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So are we talking about just the staff in general, the 3 full-time employees, or just your?
3 full-time employees,
Okay.
yeah. The part-time staff is hourly and we try to minimize overtime at all costs.
Okay,
All of the 3 full-time employees are 40 hours a week,
Yes,
but the office is only open from 3 until 7.
yes, we'll get to that in a second. So it's an average of 40-plus hours per week. And in addition to that, sometimes we do 5 days a week. Sometimes we also do 7 days a week as well, depending on the season. Our work is not always visible to the public. For example, we had an online rental calendar of availability. It's in real time. It uses Google Calendar. For the public, it just popped up one day and it was there. But for us, we had to run dual systems for over a year, work out all the kinks so we could have a smooth transition. Now, it wasn't hard to do, but it's a lot more than just putting up a Google Calendar. Another thing to keep in mind is that our work location does not have to be at the district itself. Work can happen from anywhere. And of course, as you are all aware, work can happen at any time. I've been at this district at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and 4 a.m.
I'm next door.
When the alarms go off, when I'm meeting with contractors, all kinds of things. The work can happen any time of day or night. Another concern that we've heard about is what is it that we do during the off season when there's not much swimming going on, or when the office is from 3 to 7. We're here actually much longer than that, but those are the hours we're guaranteed to be here. I'm going to use the cannon analogy since we're seasonal. And in the fall, what we do is our cannon has just fired, and we're winding down our programs. Our staff is leaving us, going off to school, and what we're doing is we're managing that and making sure that all the shifts are covered as that's happening. And we're kind of looking at where the cannonball fell, and we're trying to figure out how we can make sure that that hits our target better the next year. So we put together a list of changes that we want to work on in the winter. So the winter season, which you can see here, and that's when we make those changes. So we move our cannon, we change the elevation. What that really means is we're working on our programs, we're working on all kinds of things, mostly programs and policy.
So I guess the programs for the summertime then.
Any programs, really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, I have a question about the programs.
Yes.
We have always had, for a long time, swim team, and lap swim was sort of in at a different time, and the swim lessons.
Yeah.
I want to know what new programs you're talking about.
Sure.
What?
Well, we'll talk about it in a second, actually.
What new programs have you come up with? I mean, you keep talking about these new programs.
Yeah.
Is
And I
that
don't
in
know
your
what they-
presentation?
Excuse
Okay, let
me.
him speak. Thank you.
I'm asking you about.
He said he's going to explain it to you.
It's in
You
here.
always break me off, Hilly. You never let me talk.
You let him finish and we
I
will know.
have a question about programs. He's talking about programs.
Yes.
I have a question. What other programs beside those three have you had?
Swim camp,
That was just this year.
pre-comp,
And what?
pre-comp.
What's pre-com?
It's in between lessons and swim team. It's basically
Like a transition.
I've never heard
it's a
about
transition.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's a big thing here. So it's happened.
Can you explain what that is?
Sure, yeah. So what it is you go from your private lessons, you're on a one-to-one, one teacher, one student for 25 minutes. Once you're at the advanced level, you need a little bit more time. You don't necessarily need someone to give you instructions the whole time, but you need to build up your endurance.
Okay, but that's in the summertime from March to.
That's swim lessons. Now, if you go onto the swim team, you're swimming for an hour a day and it's all endurance. So if you don't have that, something to kind of bridge the gap, you're going to be really, let's just say it's not a pleasant transition.
So what do they actually
So-
do?
I'm about to explain that. So the pre-comp is pretty much half and half. You have a 50-minute class, half of which is instructional. It's a group class.
Uh-huh.
And the other half is more endurance-based
And when does this take place?
in the summer.
In the summer?
Yes.
I'm talking about winter. What happens in the winter here?
Well, I was explaining that.
Okay. But there's no real programs other than the lap swim and the swim team in the wintertime, right?
that's correct,
That's it.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
That's absolutely right. So, let's see, where were we? Oh, winter. So in the winter, we make those changes, and a lot of that is policy work, looking at what worked from the last year and what did not work. And then we work on those things. And of course, there's the back office changes, which we talked about. Now in the spring, what we're talking about is we're putting the gunpowder in, we're loading the cannonball, we're getting ready to fire. Realistically, what we're talking about is we're marketing for our swim camp. We're trying to get new employees. We're interviewing, we're hiring, training. We're also running our swim lessons and retraining old staff that has to come back. And also we have our part-time managers over the summer. We have to train them on how they're going to be doing it. A lot of times they only stick
I have a
around.
question about part-time managers.
Yes.
Okay, what do they do?
I can get back to that in a second.
Okay,
There's a slide for it.
all right.
Okay, where was I?
Spring.
Great.
Spring, okay, yes. Then we introduce our swim lesson program in the spring, so we're starting to ramp up. In the summer, we light the fuse and boom. There's not a lot of adjustment that can be made at this point. That summer program is the culmination of all the work that came before it. If we did our job well, it's going to be seamless and people don't notice how much work goes into it. All right, next slide. We're going to address the elephant in the room, size of comparable agencies. There's been
Steve, there
concerns
you are.
that some of the agencies that we've compared ourselves to are much larger, and that's true. But the basis for comparison for any kind of salary is always going to be similar work at a similar organization in the same region, and that's what we've done. Now, there are some differences. Large organizations tend to have more specific roles, so you might have, instead of an HR generalist, maybe you're going to have like a payroll specialist, you're going to have, I don't know, a recruitment and development person, you know, that kind of thing. For us, we wear a lot of hats, but the job functions remain the same. We still have to do all these things. And in addition to what normal businesses do, we have an additional enhanced accountability, transparency, and oversight functions. For example, we have our board meetings, public meeting laws, Public Records Act, and of course, additional requirements to audit funds. It's all GASB compliant. We have an annual audit, separation of duties. It's all in the packet. So, Sandy, to answer your question, this is our winter org chart. As you can see, we have our senior guards. They do our lap swim in the morning. We have our swim team coaches here and our office staff that does rentals on the weekends. Because there's not a lot of programs going on, this allows us to really concentrate on those policies to try to get it right, to try to figure out how we're going to do things differently or what kind of systems we want to change. So one thing that I'm pretty sure is going to come up soon is using credit cards. So making that kind of change is something that we can look at in the winter. We can look at, okay, how do we trace money coming from the front and make sure it gets accounted for and put into the back? What happens when you do a refund? How is there ways to eliminate credit card fraud, which can happen? And then making a training program on those credit cards. You got to retrain all your staff on how to do things. So that all of that has to happen at a time when we're not swamped with people and with employees.
Have you guys ever thought about like procedures for how to deal with like cash fraud? Like, you know, when people pay by cash and making sure that everything.
Isn't that what our auditor helps us with?
Well, the auditor does help us with that, but cash fraud would be fairly difficult because anytime there's someone taking cash in the office, there's more than one person there. So, it would be difficult, and the amounts of cash coming in, first, it's not that much for things that you could actually potentially take. The only thing you could really take is public swim money because there's not like a lesson attached to it. You see what I mean? Like a lesson, that's a lot of money, but you have a record that the lesson actually happened, so that payment actually has to go through. So if someone wanted, they could try to take public swim money, but it would be difficult. Like I said, different people in the office all the time.
Do you double count that cash box at the end of the day
Yes,
to keep that paperwork and compare it to deposits?
Yes,
So I saw that you guys actually use ShopKeep for your point of sale.
correct.
So how come we don't get any reports on that if that's what you guys use? Like we get the reports from QuickBooks, but not
Right.
from.
So you remember how I was saying that with the credit cards, you have to trace money from the front to the back? What you see in QuickBooks comes from ShopKeep.
Okay.
It doesn't directly translate because it doesn't come in that way. Like the data doesn't come, like it doesn't automatically go into the accounts you want it to. It doesn't. It comes in one lump. And that's not what you want to see in QuickBooks, right?
I have something to
Steve,
add to
wait,
that.
it's-
I have something to add
Excuse
to
me,
that.
Steve's had his
There were
hand
several
up.
people.
Excuse
There
me,
were several
Steve.
people.
She can go.
There was, don't touch me. There was several people in the neighborhood that said they had gone swimming here all summer for free. And they thought it was free because nobody was taking the money.
Yeah.
What's that about?
So what that is that's our lap swim program. If you take a look at
No, it's not a lap swim program.
Yeah, it
This was free. He was coming to swim.
I understand.
He was coming to swim during the day. It wasn't lap swim.
Okay.
He thought, wow, this is great. This is free. He came all summer and never
Okay.
paid a cent.
Yeah.
Because nobody was at the window.
Okay.
What
So.
about that?
Send him a bill.
Yeah, really. I mean,
So-
that's a little loosey-goosey, right?
So for public swim, what happens is the front doors are open, and when people come, they pay in and they get a wristband.
Well, he didn't.
He didn't get it, and the lifeguards didn't catch
He
on.
didn't
That
pay.
happened. Yeah.
A couple other people didn't either.
So I just want to say from now on, I'd like to have a report for ShopKeep, being on the board.
I think you should take a look at the report first before you answer that. It's not as good as you think it is. So
Okay.
let's work offline. Come meet me. We'll talk. If you want it, you can have it, but it's not very helpful.
And I think you're a little overstaffed there. Some of that could be condensed,
Which
like,
one?
yeah. Yeah.
Which one would you like? to
I'm pretty
present?
sure
Okay.
that some of, like, you don't need a marketing manager because you got a newsletter. You don't need a manager. I came here this summer, people were falling all over themselves in that office. Sunny was overwhelmed. I mean, she told me she was overwhelmed
Yeah.
by teenagers, and she didn't even know what she was doing anymore. I think I mentioned that
Yeah, that's
before.
what she said.
You're overstaffed.
This is our winter season. So
You're
we
overstaffed.
don't have much staff here at that time.
Do you have something to
So,
say?
Well, yeah, in terms of the cash accountability, every auditor we've had has, we've asked that of every auditor, saying, we have a very limited amount that's on a cash basis. And they always told us, don't worry about it, because shortages, the small ones we've had in the course of a year are always less than 10 or 20 bucks. And they usually are caused when we lose power and we have to give away ice cream before it melts, because then we'd have to clean out the freezer. But he said, given the size of our business, in the past, we tried to reconcile discrepancies to the penny, and we spent $50 worth of labor at an hourly rate in order to find 47 cents. And the auditor said, you shouldn't do that. It's obviously not cost effective, and there's no pattern to any discrepancies.
So is
If
this the-
somebody's actually embezzling, they embezzle in a pattern, and we've never had any clear pattern of any embezzlement on any level. I mean, most of the people we hire, I can't believe they're going to steal $1 when they're paying them, $17 an hour, and they've got lots of training, and they get a bad rep. And
It all adds
for a
up
next
over
job.
time, though.
It
So,
adds
All
up
the
to maybe
little stuff
$10
adds
in a
up
year.
over time.
So
So
I got a question though.
Anyway.
So who was the auditor that told you that, since you guys don't really do, this wasn't the last auditor?
yes, it was.
So
The last auditor didn't know it was an all cash business
the
though.
last auditor did. I think
Yes, he
he's
did.
talking about the one
This
before.
guy
Ellen.
was
The one before.
This is
So,
a
I mean,
new one.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is a brand new.
Oh, you
auditor.
mean not the current one? the
Yeah, because
last
we've
one.
had
brand new.
five or so different
I meant the
auditors.
last, the last.
And this
meeting.
question
Okay.
comes up every time we ask the last 5 auditors we've had, and everyone says, you're fine. They've tweaked a couple of our procedures, mainly for the checks, because at least 90% of our money is check-based, and it comes in as checks too. And so the amount we get in cash is very little, it's just for snack bar really. And like he says, there's always 2 people in the snack bar, or it's in the office, and there's always 2 people in the office when money's being taken. So, and it gets reconciled at the end of the day. But I remember sometime, I don't know how long ago, when Sunny stayed for 3-4 hours trying to find $1.
Chase down $1, yeah.
And we finally said, go home, we paid you. And when she was hourly, I said, we've already paid you $60 to try and find $1.
Yeah.
And-
it's not worth it.
And it could be just that somebody gave out 2 ice creams instead of 1,
Right, and that was like the discrepancy. Yeah.
and that was the real discrepancy, but you'll never see it.
So the big cash flow is going to be swim lessons, and that has a really robust paper trail. So there is some concern with cash, but it's not that much. But if the board wants to take a look or change things, then by all means, the accounting manual, there's a link. I think in the last one, so
Yeah.
you can take a look at that, see what you like. Okay, job functions. As we go into spring and fall, we're going to see lifeguards. These guys start lifeguarding as part of public swim, and they're overseen by the senior guards. And we have swim instructors who are overseen by the deck supervisors.
So a question about the
Yes.
swim instructor.
Yes.
So the swim instructors are the ones that do swim lessons and also like the transition lessons and the
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Pre-com. Yeah, pre-com.
pre-comp.
Mhm.
And they also do the, I guess, competitive swimming,
No, that
or
would be
would
the
that
swim
be the
team.
swim team?
Swim team. Yeah.
Okay,
swim
all right.
team, yeah. So these 2 programs, the swim instruction and swim team, they kind of seem like they would be the same, but they're just not.
Okay.
Coaching a large group of kids on competition is just really different from a private lesson. The objectives are really different. Even the tone and demeanor is totally different. So for swim team, there's a tendency to be a little bit more firm with them, whereas with the swim lesson kids, the objective sometimes is more fun depending on the age. So it's
Can I ask you something else about this?
Sure.
Westbrook is another cabana that's pretty comparable to this one. They don't have all this overhead.
Okay.
So we should compare ourselves to them. There's one in Santa Clara. Miller is probably smaller than we are, but they don't have all this overhead that we have.
Are they
All of
public
these
agency?
layers of bureaucracy, because I talked to the lady there. Plus, they're closed in the winter, which we are pretty much for all practical purposes.
Okay.
And they are open, I guess, maybe 5-6 months. And they're the same size as we are. So how come we have all this overhead and they
I
don't?
have no idea. I've never heard of
I
Westbrook.
think
so-
it's because you cause it.
Okay. So,
Did you have a comment?
Yeah, this is, when you see sections like office, swim team, swim, that doesn't
Can you
mean
come
that-
up here? I can't hear you.
That when you see these different sections, it doesn't mean that it's different people for each section. There's a lot of overlap for different jobs.
I can't hear you. You need to come up and speak.
There's
Go there.
overlap for a lot of jobs.
You need,
So,
I
like-
can't hear you.
Can you go there?
For a lot of our jobs, there's overlap. So if you see office staff, swim team coaches, and deck supervisors, take me for example, I do all three of those things. So it's not like 10 people for each different section. There's a lot of overlap for things. So a lot of our swim instructors also lifeguard on weekends, or if they swim instruct on weekends, they lifeguard on weekdays. There's overlap for every department. Not all of them overlap, but a lot of them there are. So it's not like 20 people per thing.
Right.
Maybe you should look into doing it more efficiently.
okay.
So-
Well, I'm open to your,
So I guess,
Jeez.
you, like the whole thing about you wear multiple hats, so
Yes.
you would.
that's right.
I just want to say you have a request from people watching at home, if the camera could be moved slightly so that you
Oh.
can see the presentation in the view.
Yes. Thank you, people at home.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us be your Valentine's Day gift.
You may or may not be able to see this on the screen.
It just looks like light.
It's okay, well, we'll,
But it's on the website.
If you go to
Yeah.
the website, ranchorecreation.com, there's a link.
It's
and
on the
it has
agenda,
the full agenda, it has the exact
which
same stuff
includes
on there.
this. Yeah.
So they-
So-
yeah, it has all of this. So is that actually like numbered, so you can say like, or I guess they can just look at the job functions, just be like, what are the job functions?
There is another report which does have numbers. It
Okay.
was from October or November or December.
It's okay, I was just wondering so they can follow along at home,
Right.
but they can just look at the job functions. It's the job function slide and then
Yeah.
just move on.
Okay, so this is our spring and fall. We tend to be at this point either ramping up or ramping down. Ramping up is kind of challenging because you're trying to get ready for summer without summer staffing, so it tends to be a pretty busy season. Ramping down is really chaotic because people's priorities change as they go back to school and they no longer want to work. And things that they were definitely committed to, a week ago, they're no longer committed to. So managing that is pretty difficult. In addition to the other work that we do. In the summer, because a lot of our programs explode, we do swim lessons private, so that's one-to-one. That's a lot more difficult to manage. Most other schools tend to focus on group lessons, which is easier to manage. Each department has a manager for that season, and this is to make sure that there's accountability, that our lifeguards are properly trained, that they're tested, that all of the chemical logs are checked, and so on and so forth. Lesson manager, same thing. Our camp manager, same thing. They work with the parents as well, so that the parents have a single point of contact. Anyway,
So I got a question.
yes.
Oh, never mind, I just had a question, well, okay,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
There's
Please.
a lot of information. So I remember reading a while back that you mentioned that you wear like lots of hats and there's pay differentials between them. So I guess,
For that hat or what?
well, for like if someone is like a lifeguard versus like, you know, deck supervisor versus like.
Yeah.
So if people wear those different hats, I guess, do they get paid differently? Like, do they clock in and out with like what
Yes.
position?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They do. So the swim instructors are in the highest demand.
Okay,
So what's gonna happen here is that, let's see here. Everyone, we have another that explains it a little bit.
okay.
But the important thing to know is that we do keep track of the things differently. We pay it a little bit differently based on what we need more. And then also we keep track of it separately so that we can save money on workers' compensation.
Thank you.
Okay, so our accounting records manager, she takes care of most of the administrative functions. So this arm right here gets pretty hairy in the summer, and in the off season, she assists with all the winter projects. Our program manager, again, who's just very recently taken over this mantle, manages these part-time managers here. There's a lot of coaching that's involved in bringing high school and college students up to the level of manager in a very short period of time. So there's a significant amount of coaching, setting of goals, and checking up on stuff like that. So that's what the program manager does. Myself, the general manager, I work with the board of directors on a lot of governance issues. I also work on a lot of policy for the rest of the organization. I work with legal counsel, various contractors, consultants, the public, and I manage and oversee a lot of the functions, do budgeting, as well as long-term and short-term planning. I have control over revenues and expenses as well. Any questions? Some of the things that we've been able to do over the years, we've expanded lap swim from 4 to 5 days. Lap swim is not a program that makes money. We've expanded our lessons into the weekends, as well as increased the number of instructors per time slot. Our public swim season has doubled from 2.5 months to 5 months. Our lesson season has almost tripled from 2.5 months to 8.5 months. And we introduced or tested new programs to answer your question. Yeah.
So question, so you said, so public swim, how is that different than lap swim? Public swim, is that the one in the summer?
Yeah,
Or
it's a recreation swim.
Okay, all right, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
But it uses the same prices as lap swim
Correct.
for like the day pass?
Yes.
Okay,
And we've had people do a day pass, they'll come twice a day on the same day pass. That's okay.
okay,
So we've introduced or tested new programs. One is the pre-comp, which is a main program now. Second is the swim camp, which is this is the second year. And we've also tested 2 programs. We have a baby class, which is similar to a mommy and me class, as well as the aqua aerobics, which we hope to bring back real soon. For back office changes, we'll just go through that. You can read that on your own.
read that fast.
Oh, no, it's in the packets too. So, what you see here, this is when I took over. As you can tell, our net revenue and everything was going down. We increased all of our programs, and we made additional revenue while expanding our programs and paying our people more at the same time. So our cash revenue went up.
That's also due to property tax too though, right?
It is, but if you look, it's kept pace.
Okay.
So it's both. In 2016, instead of letting the cash go up, we reinvested it in our facilities. That's the space project, which you may remember, as well as this blue right down here, which is the capital replacement fund. So this is for whatever the future residents of Rancho.
Excuse me, you mentioned a space project.
I did.
Is that the one that's been going on for almost 2 years?
Yeah, you can see it right here.
Why isn't that finished?
I'm sorry?
How come that can't get finished under
So
2 years?
Parts of it have finished already. The last part I'll talk about in the facility status.
The what?
The last part I'll talk about in the facility status. Another
He
part of
gives
the
us a-
agenda.
Report on the building.
Why is it taking so long?
I will explain that during the facility status.
Can you just explain, like
It's gonna
the
take
Reader's
longer.
Digest version?
Can we wait till we get to that point? Thank you.
Yeah, but
Okay.
there's a part for that. Anyway, so that's about, there's a question part if anyone has any. It's already taking a long time. Should we continue this or do you want to,
Let's go to the finances.
okay,
Yeah.
do you want to skip it or do you want to?
Oh, no,
Does anybody have any more questions in regard to the report, the compensation report? If there's no more comments on the compensation report, we'll move on to finances. Okay,
All of that's in the
thank you.
packet
Can
anyway,
we,
isn't it? So people can see it?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, now we're going on to our interim financial report.
Okay, so this is our interim financial report. As you can see, it's a year-to-date, July to December of last year, and compared with the previous year, same date range. There's a dollar change and a percent change along with the annual budget. Some things to keep in mind is that this is a few months behind. That is on purpose because certain things like a credit card statement, they tend to come a little bit late, and then we have to process it. We have to match up all the receipts to the statement. Then we have to get a check made out, send the check out cash. So it actually ends up getting cashed right around February, which we're in now.
I don't have that.
Of course you
Is it
do.
available somewhere?
It's in the
Yeah, it's in
report.
the-
It's in this?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
It's the next section.
Some things to note is that the annual budget is useful, but you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt because our expenses and our revenue is not even. It spikes during certain times of the year, so it looks like we've spent a lot more than we should, or a lot less, but that's not really the case. It's just that we're seasonal.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Where does this little, I saw the sign out there, the little dragon, whatever that is?
Yeah.
Where does the income for that show?
That would be under hall rental revenue right
It's
there.
not, they're not renting this.
They are.
Is that just a little room?
What?
They're in here every day?
Yeah.
What time?
I think it's like 3 to 6. Yeah, it's not every day. It's like 2 or 3 days a week.
Oh, interesting. And that's like after school care?
Yeah.
We're licensed for that?
Yeah.
And that's safe with the pool right there?
Yeah, so that door doesn't open to the pool. Yeah, and we have people on deck.
That's interesting. So that's going on and people couldn't then rent this for other things. We could use it for community events because.
You could after 6 p.m. or on the other days. Typically, what I've noticed over the past, 18 years is that the hall doesn't get used from 3 to 6.
So is that an after, what age are those kids?
I don't know, probably around the same age as a swim camp, about 5 to 10.
You don't know?
So do you know how long they've been renting? Because
It's a little over a year.
okay,
Yeah,
so it was before
And how
becoming
much do
board
they
members.
pay an hour?
the same as everyone else. Yeah, so I believe it's either 40 or 60 an hour for the 3 hours. It's not any different.
I mean, if that's that many hours, that's a lot of your income.
Yeah.
My hands break that out so we can do that. That's a pretty,
Well, if someone wants to see it, we can add it to the questions to the next, it's just that it hasn't really come up. So-
but I never do, so I saw the little sign. Is that
Well,
their
we-
storage room right there?
No, they don't go in there. This is where we store our chairs.
Right, but the sign for the thing is on that door over there.
Yeah, that's the entrance to the hall. So, I mean, there's
It was
more,
just interesting.
yeah, I mean, there's more than just that. I mean, we have scuba rentals, we have like all kinds of yoga rentals. I mean,
Right, but consistently many days a week during the
Yeah.
same hours.
Yes.
That's like daycare.
well, you have yoga that's here at the same, I'm not trying to
Yoga's
say.
a class, that's daycare.
Okay, I don't understand the question, sorry.
It's just different, it's just different. That's-
Okay.
That's all.
All right, anyway, so the way that everything's accounted, and because we're so small, things can kind of jump around. So for example, if we get a bill a little bit late, it may not show up in one of these. And so when you're looking at the prior year comparison, it might look like there's a big difference, but it's just that the bill was processed either earlier or later, the one of the times. So if it's within about 20%, that's usually kind of around where you want it to be. So our public swim lessons and swim team is more or less on track. Swim lessons is down this year. It was down last year. We expect it to be down even further next year as a result of less people being born in the United States and the Bay Area. Our swim team is also lower. This is an intentional decision. We introduced a $75 registration fee, which was meant to discourage people from coming for just a few months in the summer. So we do have less people coming, but the experience is much better because there's more space for our swimmers in the summer. As far as our pool rentals, they are up. Our barbecue rentals are down. This is probably as a result of getting rid of the 6-hour rental. You can still get a 6-hour rental, but you have to do 2 3 hours, and maybe people don't connect the dots there. So we might think about bringing that one back. Our hall rentals are up, but it's more or less the same. Swim camp's a new program, snack bar is pretty much the same, and property taxes is what we expect. As far as our expenses are concerned, all of the administration is more or less on track.
I got a question.
Yes.
So I see that for the director's fees, so we get paid $100 a meeting, but for this one, it's an odd number. So
Yeah,
it's
I
not
was
a
looking
multiple of 100, so what is that for?
That's a good question. I think we'd have to check with Sunny. There's probably something that's related to meetings. So that's director's fees /
Right,
meetings.
right.
So it would be something related to meetings.
Could we see what it is?
Sure.
I mean, that's a lot of, that's
So let me add that to the
12.
next.
That's
meeting's
about
question.
$5,000 that we should be getting, actually 48 because Julie never took anything.
Yeah.
So this is like 2,477 for something?
But that's the total, so
Yeah, that's the
it would be the
total,
total,
yeah.
it wouldn't
I
be,
mean,
it
it's
would be
a
the, it
small
was,
amount, but yes,
right.
it is kind of. a
But it's
bigger
off,
number.
yeah.
So I'll bring a full breakdown for the next meeting. All right. The professional fees is on track, but it is expected to rise because we still need to pay off the attorney fees. So that's going to go.
Why do we have so many attorney fees?
Because apparently we need attorneys. So
Well, what do we need them for?
Because we're not operating within the law sometimes and we need advice.
That's a lot of money, $15,000,
It's not just
$16,000
lawyers,
in 2 years.
but it's not just lawyers, right?
What is it?
That also includes our audit.
Yeah.
So
so I guess the
Okay.
audit was 8,000.
it was like
It was more last year, but still, that's a lot of money for attorney's fees.
It's not.
It's
That's
not attorney
mostly,
fees.
That's mostly the audit.
It's a professional, what is it for?
Mostly
Okay,
it's
it's
the
for the
audit.
attorney
So that
and the
includes-
audit, and what else?
So it's the attorney, the audit, it also includes our accountant.
Your
Marcia
what?
Mulkey, our
Okay,
accountant. It also includes.
Marcia Mulkey,
Yes, yeah, she's our accountant. So she comes in quarterly to just check up on things. She assists with the pre-audit, just getting everything prepared for them.
so, okay, so Sunny is the office manager, accounts manager, and then she's a seasonal, Martha is the,
Marcia.
Marcia, sorry.
Yeah.
Marcia is the part-time help, does she,
She comes in for like a few hours every quarter.
okay,
And most of what she does is she sees a lot of different organizations. So if we've changed our processes many times over the years, and we've used her experience to do that. So if we were to say, consider, okay, let's do credit cards, we'd say, Marcia, how do we do this?
Mhm.
And how do we track from here to here? And she'll say, well, I've seen it in this other organization, you do it this way, and then we'll try to implement that. Does that answer your question? Okay, building and yard. Building is a little bit higher than last year, pool's a little bit less. We don't really control these too much because when things break, we have to fix them. And our utilities is about the same as last year. Our advertising is up, but that is an expected increase. It will increase more because we're going to be sending out more community mailers. Let's see here, the programs and supplies is about the same, and our snack bar expenses are down for whatever reason. It could be that we were buying all this stuff on sale. It's hard to say.
so for the advertising, what other advertising do you guys have besides the mailers?
Okay, so we also have the CUSD e-newsletters, so we have to pay for those as well.
They
Okay.
charge you for that?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. I know. So that, in fact, most of that right there is actually the CUSD fees and the camp fairs. So, yeah. But it does work. We've had people come in because of that, so.
It's brought in a lot of business.
Yep. On the next page, personnel expenses are pretty much on track. This is to be expected, given that the minimum wage has gone from $10 to our minimum now is 15 to 17 now within the last 6 or 7 years. So it's and our salaries, of course, for the full-time staff has gone up as well. So what you're seeing is pretty much expected. It's on track. And yeah, any questions?
Are we going through the balance sheet?
Would you like to?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't put it up on the slide. I didn't figure that would be interesting to anyone, but yeah, let's go for it.
Well, I just have a question about the balance sheet actually, because I was looking at this and before the meeting and I saw that, the balance sheet,
Which page are you looking at?
oh, it's this page?
Two
One
of
of
It's got a
two.
number at the bottom.
One at two, one
It's
of
one of
two?
two.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
Next to the last page.
so I had a question. So the balance sheet, I noticed, does not balance out. So if you look at the total assets for December and for November, they're different numbers than what it is for the liabilities and the equity on the next page. So.
That's interesting. I can look into that.
So another thing I want to mention too, what's that?
It's the difference of the fixed assets.
Yeah,
Is it?
Yeah.
yeah. Because we don't have, yeah. Mhm.
They wouldn't be liabilities.
Right, your land is, your pool, your land, that's all.
Right, but it should still balance out on the balance sheet though. Because I printed it out for the November one and the assets and the total liabilities and equity balance out. And it's also like, it's a different number. So if you look at if you look at the November 2018 comparable, it says on the bottom that the assets are 3,106,910. But last month, the assets on the balance sheet say 2,057,618.
So these come straight out of QuickBooks. So I think what would be really helpful is if you come into the office, we can work with Sunny. We can pull the reports and see where that came from.
I just thought that was weird. So-
Yeah, that sounds very weird. So come into the office and we'll figure out what happened.
Okay. So we are done with interim.
Okay, so have you concluded the report? Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Okay, now we're going to look at the audit.
I'll move to approve the audit.
So I am not going to approve the audit because I had asked for documentation in terms of verifying the deferred income from the auditor, and I had not received it. And I emailed him, I think it was January 23rd or 25th. So since I have not gotten that documentation, I'm not going to approve the audit.
Okay.
So,
do you want to push it off another month?
well, at least until I get the paperwork.
Okay.
We'll do the second. Okay. You want to make a motion?
I'll move to review and approve the check register.
To do what?
To review, item C, 3C, review and
Approved
approve the
independent,
check register.
Okay, well, I guess I'm not going to approve it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, so,
The check register?
It's right here.
Oh, it's right here, and that's the full version if you wanted to take a look.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I
in the
still want to
packet.
go through, everything. I want to go through all the invoices and stuff, so.
Okay.
So the audit didn't get approved, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Or the check register.
Did we approve the interim financial report?
That was a report.
We don't approve that.
Okay.
Okay,
It's just a snapshot.
sure, we'll make a.
I don't remember
I'll
approving
move
it.
to
When
assign
did I
a
approve it?
board member for February Check Center. I'll volunteer or somebody else can volunteer.
Steve?
Yeah, I think there was a thing where he said like, I sign checks, but you guys don't have like.
We need to
What
get
we
you
do?
signing.
We need to get you to the bank.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's
We
something.
need to
that
get
have
together and
figure
go to
out
the
when you're
bank.
ready.
okay.
So if you want, we can schedule that out. Just let me know.
Can you do that?
And then I'll review it. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for January 14th and 24th. If somebody seconds it, then we can correct them if they need corrections.
I can't approve that because there was something in the minutes, which are, I guess they're here somewhere. Are the minutes here somewhere?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
Well, if we're not gonna do it, we can go into more detail.
okay, sounds good.
What page are they on?
They're They're after
I wanna-
the
but
check
where-
register. Look after the check register.
Which is after the audit.
The minute, I'm talking, you said something about the minutes. here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's right here.
Well, the last
So
two
it's under
minutes.
the, if you go after the
Packet.
check register,
Of course, we can't
It'd be nice
discuss it
if we
unless
could just
somebody
have it like we're
seconds
used
the
to,
motion.
it'd be more.
so this is for the 10th. So there were 2 meetings, so.
Understand.
Okay, I can't approve the minutes because of the closed meeting discrepancies.
What discrepancy are you referring to?
Well, the first
The
one
fact that
I
you
went
didn't
to
attend it?
was not about what, they're misrepresented as personnel evaluation. And he had an evaluation, he got a contract and a raise. And every month, this thing is on personnel evaluation. And the one I went to was not about that at all. So I suspect these closed meetings are being used for other purposes other than personnel evaluation, and I cannot approve it. Period, that's it.
I think there's actually a section in our policies that deals with.
I don't care. What
For
went
both
on at
meetings?
that meeting was not a
Which one?
personnel evaluation.
Which one?
Which meeting?
Which meeting? There's two
The
here.
first one that I went to.
Is that,
I didn't.
Do you know the date?
Okay, listen, I refused to go to any more because of what happened at the first one. It was pretty bad. So I'm not approving it.
well, we
So you
don't,
want to have your closed meetings, fine. I don't know. If they're represented for what actually goes on, that's one thing. If they're about something else, I'm not approving them.
Is there a second to my motion or not? Otherwise,
We
we
can't
can't
discuss it.
discuss it.
till somebody seconds.
Okay, I actually haven't reviewed it yet, so.
Okay,
So the minutes are not approved, right?
There
Right.
wasn't a motion, so.
So they're not approved.
because there wasn't,
One
it
way or
failed for
another.
lack of a second, yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, Kevin, you'll help us with the facility status?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we don't have any urgent repairs, but our CO2 feed system is, it seems like it's acting up, so we're having trouble correcting the pH. We've been doing it using other methods for now. As far as the project updates, the shed has been delayed once again. So the sticking point right now is that our contractor does not have any certified welders on staff. The special inspection that has to come inspect the field welds requires them to have a certified welder. They don't have one, and they're looking to find one to finish the project off.
So an inspector has to come from where?
It's a special inspection agency, so they come and they inspect the field welds as they're happening. The alternative is to have the welds done at their facility, but then you'd have to go and get an addendum to the permit to have bolts instead of welds. It's a process.
So this is different from the space project, though?
It is part of the space project.
Oh, it's part of the space project, okay.
This is pretty ridiculous.
That's
You know,
how
it could have been a
this-
shed. It could have been
That's how
for
the permits work,
$100,000.
Okay,
How much-
moving to
excuse
hall
me, I
window
have another question,
replacement.
Kevin. How much have you actually spent on that project out there? When you brought those things, you had it all like coleslaw, it was all mixed in. I would like to actually know individually
Yeah.
what you spent on that project,
Right.
not your office, not
Yeah.
this, not
It
that.
was on there.
Well, can you give it to me? I never got it. You
It's
had
part of
a
your agenda.
It
demonstration.
was part of an earlier packet.
It's part of the
in your
what?
packet,
We had it in
yeah.
the last 2 months as one of our packets.
Well, I need to see it again.
Okay, it's also online. I can give you a copy if you'd like.
Give me a
that.
copy of just those expenses.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
This is for the shed, right?
It's just for that project that you got going out there that's been going on for 2 years.
Okay.
All the expenses, the architect, the cement, the poles, whatever else, the permits.
Sure.
Thank you.
Moving on to item
Okay.
B.
Yeah, moving to item B.
I'm gonna move to approve Bull's Glass based on having read the quotes in advance of the meeting. But I want to ask, before I make that motion, I want to ask for the staff recommendation. I spoke offline to Kevin about that, and he said Bull's Glass quote is the only one for safety glass. And given the number of kids we have in this hallway, safety glass is essential. So also, Bull's Glass is the only business identified there who primarily does windows. And so I trust their quote is complete, much more than I trust a Home Depot quote based on friends who've worked at Home Depot.
I like Bulls Glass.
And,
They're a local company and I've used them before and I think they're good.
I'm moving to approve the Bulls Glass bid because the Live Planet bid, they get enough of our money and it's not their specialty. Whereas Bulls, I know I've hired them in the past to do windows.
Where
So
are the windows
yeah,
being
which windows would
replaced?
this be?
Which
Would it be
windows?
these ones here?
These
Yeah.
ones, that one, and those ones there.
Okay, what's wrong, what's going on with them?
Well, this one's made out of plastic, and it's kind of starting to.
All right.
To warp?
Yeah.
No, it's like you can't really see. It's not clear anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Scratching?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
They're also
plastic
single
always-
pane, so I mean.
So these would be double
They're all
pane,
single pane, yeah.
They're double pane, low.
low-E.
Low.
Yeah, that's the other good part about
Yeah.
their quote is it's low E.
Mhm.
So less fading in here of the carpet and drapes and stuff. So anyway, I'm going to approve the Bulls Glass bid. I hope somebody will second
So, do we know when this would somewhat be completed? I saw Jay did the quote, but.
It would help to have a second if you want to discuss it.
it. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
That's how we usually.
we can,
Oh,
second-
okay, so we have to do a second, but
but to
well,
discuss
to
it,
to
anything.
discuss it or to approve
To
it?
discuss it.
Okay, so I will second to discuss
We
it.
we can still vote it down.
Okay,
Okay, it's just a discussion.
okay.
Sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, your question.
Oh, sorry. So, for this, do they know when, roughly it would be replaced and how long it would take?
We'd have to contact them. So usually what happens is the board approves one of the bids, then we contact the vendors, we schedule out the work, and then whenever they're available. Depends, right? If it's closer to summer, usually a lot of contractors get pretty busy.
Right.
So.
And then there's also, weather too.
This is probably a good time of year to get.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Other than all
then
the
the rain.
storms breaking a lot of
Yeah.
windows, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the seasonality of
I
glass.
I would expect it to get done around the time of the next board meeting. Usually most vendors is 2 to 4 weeks,
Yeah,
sometimes 6 weeks if it's like busy.
So is that gonna interfere with, the hall rental income? Like,
No, not at all.
No.
We would schedule it when there's no one here.
Do you want me to
Okay.
call them? I could get them down here within a week, pretty sure.
what?
I
Sandra?
said, do you want me to call the vendor? I can get things done pretty expeditiously.
There's no one here during the day.
Pardon me?
And they can do that fast.
I mean,
yeah,
during
that's,
the weekdays.
that's the kind of thing that worries
Windows they
me.
do
Yeah.
pretty quick.
Okay.
So if it's
Should they?
before June, then there's no one here on
In the
weekdays.
day.
You should
No,
call
but-
them and get them in here.
But
and do it.
after-school program is here, correct?
In the afternoon.
Okay,
Yeah, so I
all
don't
right,
think it would take them the whole day. We could also do it on a day they're not here.
right, like the weekend or
We would
whatever.
schedule
Okay.
it when it makes sense.
Okay,
Right, we always do.
Have we concluded our discussion?
I have.
Are we ready to call the question? Okay, all in favor of Bulls Glass replacing the windows?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. And, okay, concluding the hall windows, we're moving to C,
Nope,
but you
C
said
is
that C was from a previous.
Yeah.
So we don't have that, so just skip it?
Well, no,
Home
no.
Depot?
There's a hall drape replacement. I just need directive from the board.
Is this Home Depot?
No.
No,
No,
What
this
is it?
is, 5C.
it's replacement.
Yeah, I need directive. It doesn't have to be a vote, just whether this staff recommendations which is in the agenda packet, is okay to get proposals for or not.
where's that?
Which item are we talking about now?
Hall drape replacement.
So it's 5C?
Let's see,
You go over here?
staff
Okay.
recommendation.
Shade store? Why are, okay, that was my project, right?
We were on the
The
committee.
shades?
Yeah.
Okay. This man has given us a good price from Eminent, right?
Yeah.
He has been here many times. He gave, I've got all the quotes here. The first one got changed. And then on the January 23rd meeting, you said you were waiting for him to give you the second quote on the doors.
No, we were waiting for to see if the staff recommendations were gonna be followed or not, and then get proposals.
Well,
for it.
okay,
I
he
have the
said,
proposals, but I
okay,
just wanted to
hold
make sure
it.
it's fine.
he said in an email that he came on the 16th.
Right.
He gave you a quote on the 17th. and you didn't present it on the 23rd. Why?
We ran out of time.
Well, we did run out of time, but also,
You didn't present it on the 23rd. Why?
We
so
only had
one of the purposes of the committee was to give direction to what kind of proposals staff should go out. and
Well,
get.
we're way beyond that right now,
Well, we're
okay?
not,
I'm just
because the
asking
board
you,
didn't give
how
any-
come,
He's
just
telling you.
go off on a different thing here. It says Kevin and I met on January 16th and discussed further options. He added 6 shades for the entry doors.
Correct,
I sent him the updated proposal.
yes.
He was going to discuss with the board on Wednesday, the 23rd. You didn't.
We did, actually.
No, you
So
didn't.
on
You
the-
said you were waiting for
on-
these, you said you were waiting
On
for
the
a second
23rd,
quote. And I handed, this is on tape, I handed you the shade store stuff because I thought that's what you wanted. And you said, no, I'm waiting for Ashtok to give me the quotes, the second quote. And he already did. But you said he didn't, and you didn't even mention
I
it on
didn't
the
say that.
23rd.
No, actually, it was mentioned, it was item number 3 on the minutes, you
Okay,
wouldn't approve.
so
So.
I realized, this is my project, let me talk. I realized that this first one was gonna run out on the 27th. So I got in touch with him and he gave me a second quote. And then you changed it again. This was my second quote. And it was even a better deal that he wasn't gonna charge for a free install and 5%. So, and tax, okay? So the second one was 6747. So which quote are we were, let me see.
Oh, it's on.
69, now it's gone up, okay? So your deal, you were talking to him, and now it's 69, and he had shipping and handling, and measure, haul, and install is now 665. So I don't know why, I think we need to accept this quote of 67, whatever it is.
But it's not what we
Oh,
want
wait a minute, hold it.
or need.
Hold it. We should accept 6907 because all these other quotes, as I knew they would be, are much more. One is 5 and one is 3 more. And we're paying for their overhead. He is a small businessman. He's been here twice. He's been very gracious. And I think we should accept his bid and not carry this out any further. These hall curtains are probably not even sanitary to be breathing with people with allergies. And I've been calling for this for 2 years. Now, I don't think we should further muddy up the waters with the shades.
So we're actually working to approve this purchase, correct?
Right, we're accepting the bid.
Okay, so
And he
I'll
can
make,
come here and put these in, zip, zip, zip.
I'll make the
Let's let
motion.
Kevin has the word
Oh,
here.
sorry.
So there's a bit of a, normally, what that committee was going to do was either.
That was me.
Right, to bring 3 proposals to the board or to provide.
Well, we got
feedback.
3.
May I finish, please?
No, because I'm tired of the, you keep stalling because you have to be in control of everything. And it's detrimental to progress here. And I don't know why we can't just accept his proposal and stop messing around.
I thought we were gonna do that
So
right now.
actually,
Yeah,
Trying.
that's what I thought
there's,
too.
Yes,
so
Kevin, please finish.
The committee can either present 3 proposals to the full board or can provide feedback to the staff to go out and get proposals.
I already had feedback
If-
from the
if I'm-
staff.
Well, it was refused in December. So what happened was during the January 23rd meeting, staff had to provide feedback to the board, which indicated that the opening system would not be ADA compliant. So things like that are what staff, feedback gives, is important things about how the hall is used, ADA compliance. These doors behind us weren't included in the quote, and so that was something that,
Actually, these look nicer. Curtains like this look nicer and doors like this.
which
But,
is
you
fine,
know, I don't-
but this
you
needs
know.
to be replaced anyway. So in any case,
So you need a new bid.
so we put the staff recommendation in, and for some reason, I had remembered it passing, but when I reviewed the video, it actually, the board did not give me directive on that. So
Well, I'm giving you directive now. We
But
want
the
to
board
accept
is-
his
The board has
proposal.
to give him
The
direction.
board has to.
None of us individually can direct him.
Why, okay, well, why are we putting this off? This is
So,
ridiculous.
The committee did not put 3 bids together, did not present it to the
Well,
board.
there are 3 bids here, and don't be,
Those
you
are
know
the
what?
ones
You
that
don't have
staff
to be
put
such
together.
a stickler on everything because it's me. And
That's
you
not the
just,
reason
oh,
why.
you just have such a problem with me and everything I do.
I
And
don't.
you have to gum up the works in some way. And that's what you spend all your time doing, is manipulating and putting things off. And I'm tired of it.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
So, these other 2 bids, or sorry, from Home Source and Shade Store, was
Yes.
that from you?
Shade
You
Store.
Shade
got that?
Store is the one I got. We
Okay.
usually get 2 bids, but now we're, whatever Kevin's saying.
But being on the committee though, she was able to talk to the vendor.
Sure. Well, the thing is that those aren't the vendors we normally work with, right? And as this committee, neither of the 3 bids was presented to the board, nor was directed for what bids for staff to get was that presented. Neither one. So
Well, Kevin, why
So-
don't you just take over and we'll just do whatever. It'll probably take another year for you to get these stupid rotten fraying curtains out because you didn't come up with something. You'll probably have to come up with 4 more things or 5 more things or 10 more things.
So I got a
I
question.
have no patience with this anymore. I'm sorry. I have no patience.
I was just gonna ask
So,
that same thing,
yeah,
if they were for the same thing.
They're pretty close.
Close,
So I
but they're
had
not.
gone out and got the proposals based on the assumption that the staff recommendations had been accepted. It turns out they were not.
What would the staff, oh,
They're
now,
on the
how
page.
many
They're
more
right in
staff?
front of you.
Past that.
So we'll move past that. We have these, they're roughly equivalent. Eminent Shade seems to be the best price.
So let's vote on that.
Let's go.
Yeah,
go
let's vote on it.
I vote in favor of eminent shades.
You need to make a
I
motion.
said-
Sorry, I make a
You make a
motion.
But does-
motion, can we
but-
get a second? Can we
And they
follow some
won't,
of
they
the
won't
rules?
approve it because they're with him, watch.
Well, you can second it.
I second it.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
So this bid, I don't recall seeing the eminent bid. Does it satisfy all the staff recommendations?
It does.
It does.
There may be some small tweaks, but it's good, yeah. The thing I like about Eminent is they use the same fabrics and installer as the Home Source, which is Costco's vendor. So Costco selects their vendor very,
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay,
but it's much cheaper, so I think,
right, and that's Ash Talk, is
Yeah.
is
Yes,
eminent, right?
yes.
so I do think he is excellent, but I did want to follow protocol and make sure that the staff recommendations were accepted before I got the bid, so I kind of went out a little too quick.
So my other question, the other half of my question is,
Yeah.
are these other 2 quotes meeting staff recommendations too?
Yes.
They're just incredibly, a lot higher. So,
They're just a lot
okay.
higher.
So all 3 of these bids are similarly equivalent as far as you can tell.
I don't think they're
So
very
it
similar at all.
does make sense to, and so Eminent looks like somebody we can work with as a,
There's a motion and a second. Are we gonna vote on it?
well, you discuss it first,
That
then
was
you
just
vote.
discussion.
I just had a couple questions.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion that's been seconded to assign Eminent as our vendor for our hall drug replacement. Okay, I'm calling the question. All in favor? Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Let's all agree on something for
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
Thank you so much.
We
We're getting hall curtains. It only took 2 years.
Yeah,
2
everything's
years,
good.
wonderful. Okay.
I would think that would happen.
I'm a satisfied camper, 2 years, you know, another
The
2
blinds,
years. we could
they
probably do
usually have to make them
Okay.
custom, so they usually have a little bit of a longer lead time, so I think we're okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're moving to discuss and approve the selection process for our next meeting. Your motion.
Well, it doesn't say approve. I guess to discuss it, yeah, I'll move to
Of course,
accept this selection process so we can change it if we need to.
do we have a second?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what Steve said, sorry.
I
The
move
door
to
was,
approve the selection process recommended by staff.
For an
Because it
activity.
looks like it works.
okay, so yeah, so the special meeting's happening February 28th, that's a Thursday, correct? That's
Do you want to
Two
make a
Thursdays.
second?
Yeah. And we need a
What are
second
we,
before
what
we
are we
can do
voting on
anything
now?
else.
Wait a minute, what about Live Planet? What
I don't
about
think-
that?
I don't think we're there
We've already
yet.
done that.
We're Home
We-
Depot
we-
now?
No,
No,
No.
we're on item
Wait a
6.
minute,
whole
hold
other-
it. I didn't hear anything about Live Planet.
There was nothing about Live Planet.
Why is it on here?
That was 2
That
items
was
ago.
things ago and we voted on it.
Yes, we voted on it.
That was the Bulls.
Why is it on here now?
There's more paper under the purple part.
Perhaps we can
If you
move
move your page
to
up, you can
number
see where we
6, where we're going. We
No,
had
I
a
wanna
motion
know.
made.
I want to know when we did Live Planet. We did Bowls and we did
About 5
Home
minutes
Depot.
ago.
I didn't hear Live Planet. That kind of slipped by.
I clearly said,
There was a motion made.
that we moved for Bulls Glass,
Right.
and based on the
And you
fact that
voted
Home
for it.
Depot,
I just voted on Bowls Glass. I didn't vote on these other two.
that means we
And I need
rejected,
to
it means we rejected
We're-
Home Depot and.
So we
and
already
Parkland.
voted and we're gonna do Bulls Glass and we're gonna do imminent for the shades. So
Okay,
now we're talking about item number 6.
okay, but why aren't we finishing the?
We did.
We
Okay,
did.
well, I needed to recuse myself from the Home Depot, okay?
We didn't have a motion for Home
We
Depot.
didn't have
There
a
was
motion.
no
We made-
discussion
We
about
made a
Home
motion
Depot.
to use Bulls Glass for the windows.
Right, I know, we
Correct.
voted on it.
Yes,
But what about the other two under those
We
two?
didn't vote for those.
You picked the other one.
we already picked Bulls Glass. So those were the other two vendors.
We rejected the
We
other
didn't-
two bids.
we-
Okay, well,
rejected the
Live
other two.
Planet was also a landscaper at one time, so he must be doubling up on his, whatever.
Okay,
Okay.
moving to 6 and
All
we're
right,
looking for a
Second.
second.
Second
There
to
was-
approve this, correct?
No,
Or to
to make
So
discuss
to
it.
discuss
a
it,
motion to
I'll
you
make
make
never have a
second.
second just to approve. You always have a discussion after. a
So
second.
I'll second Steve's motion to discuss this.
Okay.
So one of the things, if I can speak for,
yes,
one
please.
of the things that I see here, and since we have members of the public here, I'd like to find out if anybody has a problem with this process, who's a member of the public, even though it isn't public comment time.
They're allowed to.
Because I think it looks like there's a process here that can work, and if we actually get applicants, I hope.
What page is
Where is it?
This is
It's
proposed
the
selection
next-
process
Next, right after Hall
proposal.
Drapes.
It's about 70% of the way through your packet. And it's before you get to these pretty pictures of the brochure, just before that.
Right, before the Embassy Suites.
Yeah, before the brochure for the Leadership
It
Academy.
should be right after Drapes.
And it's right after the drape, Hall drape. It's
So
page right
the
after.
recommendations.
So anyway, my review of this procedure looks like it'll work. Again, the only change I can see is, I can't see it needs any change. It looks open and transparent as a process. And especially given the fact that often it appears our board is divided, it gives us a way to possibly select a fifth member. And so I think it looks workable.
I do have a question.
Sure.
It
Actually,
says,
you're running the meeting.
one of the things is attend at least one board meeting prior to special appointment meeting. How do you verify that?
How are you gonna know?
Which item is that?
The first
Oh,
one?
item 1.
It just says ideal, it doesn't say.
Yeah.
required.
Well, it depends on whether you believe our website or not. And on our website, it says we're actually going to pick the person at the March 11th meeting. And that's an error. I think we have to pick them at that meeting. An ideal candidate would have attended a board meeting before, but we're not necessarily going to find an ideal candidate. Hopefully, we will find one among people. Someone
Wasn't
who's
there a
attended
time
board
limit
meeting
on
before.
that? Weren't we supposed to do that within 2 weeks of something?
We're doing it right now.
According to the
We're
council.
doing it now.
We're doing it now to meet that
Okay, so
requirement.
then we have 2 weeks from now.
We're going to talk to
It's spelled
people
out.
next in 2
The
weeks.
next meeting, right. So on
Okay.
February 28th is going to be a special meeting where ideal candidates are going to come.
Right.
Well, hopefully I do.
Hopefully I do.
Candidates are gonna come.
And then we choose one then?
No, I
No,
believe
we
it's going to
interview
be
them.
I believe it's going to be on the March
If you
11th.
read the
meeting.
process, we interview them.
Oh, no, they have to be,
I
February
thought there
28th
was
is it.
Oh, it is
Time
February
limit.
28th, is it?
There was
Okay,
a time
That's
limit.
So we're
right,
going
the
to
60 days.
interview
Okay,
and
so it is
approve.
on the 28th.
We
All right.
could do another special meeting, but
Okay, I'm sorry, so I clarify. So yeah,
Okay.
they're gonna be,
Is
okay.
will we be able to see any kind of applications before this time period?
72 hours.
24th, it says.
Yeah, 72 hours.
Yeah, so the deadline is February
So the
24th at
25th,
midnight.
Okay.
All the
So after
applications
that
will
is,
be
okay,
public.
all right. If there's no more
I have a
discussion, I'll,
question.
Yeah.
yes,
There was
How
one.
can they possibly have attended board orientation prior to the selection process?
Ideally, they can come.
So that's like really not gonna happen.
Well, no, I mean,
No.
once the applications are all in, I can take a look, contact everyone, see if they want to get together all at once. We can do an orientation
You're
for
gonna get them
everyone.
by the 26th and do
Yeah.
that before the 28th.
Well, you're gonna be
Ideally.
accepting.
Ideally.
we are under a
We're
time
gonna try.
limit.
We're gonna try.
Two in the morning.
Well, I might be, but I think it's better
See, the
that
midnight
people
just-
enter this knowing what they're getting into. That's all.
Yeah.
So watch the
I mean,
YouTube
Maybe
videos.
you should have that before their dues.
The other thing about a board candidate that I made clear in the version that I hoped was going to go out in the mailer but didn't, was that you're talking about a normal commitment of 5 to 20 hours a week. When things are running smoothly, 5 hours a week is normal for a board
That's
member
not
to
true.
spend. And I've spent as many as 40 hours a week. And I know since she's become a board member, Sophie's spent more, I believe you spent more than 5 hours a week coming up to speed. Because it takes
I'm
a lot
doing
of
my
time.
best.
Yeah, you know, she's working as hard as she can to come up to speed on the complicated process of the legal requirements of being a board member. You know, so it takes time. But, so ideal candidates will have the time to come up to speed as quickly as they can. Most of them, I'm sure, will have jobs or other things in their life besides coming to board meetings. So, but I just wanted to make sure that that's out there somewhere on our public site to say, you know, it's a time commitment. It's a commitment to your neighbors. It's a commitment to the district that you're going to come to meetings. And that's why item number 1, hey, if you come to one meeting, your chances are better that you'll come to another meeting. So that's one way you could justify that. However, I didn't write the selection process. I just.
Well, what if there's
Can
no
I ask you a
adjustments?
question about that? What do you do? I mean, like, what have you done this?
Please,
Can I ask? He's talking about.
No, I can answer her question. The 5
Yeah.
hours this week, is that what you're asking about?
What did you do?
Reading all this took